Hello, welcome to Berkshire Guitar Amplifier Repairs. Stuart Smith as always in the workshop, and on the bench today we have a Marshall JMP. I thought it would be a fairly interesting and probably fairly quick video. The customer bought this in the 80s and hasn't used it for the last 15 years. So before he turns it on he wanted me to give it a good old look over and to do a revalve because he doesn't think it's ever had valves since he had it bought. So I think we'll just take the chassis out, have a look inside. I don't expect to see any horror stories, but you never know. And then we'll just do a revalve and a rebias and call it job done on this. So follow me through now as we sort out this Marshall JMP. Right, let's start topside, and the first thing I notice is that this was made in May 1979. I was going to suggest it was early 80s, but it's a little bit earlier than that. And it's got some interesting valves in. This is a Marshall ECC83. This one here is interesting. It's got all this writing on the side of it, look. That says 1995 on it. So someone's put a new valve in there with some sort of, yes, a bit of tape, that. Don't know. And this is a unmarked, unbranded valve. And we have a quad of Svetlana EL34s. I'm going to replace that with a quad of Marshall EL34s. They're very good valves, the Marshall EL34s, and better than the JJs, which don't do well in 100 watt EL34 amplifiers. What else? Well, it all looks, you know, it's fairly corroded here, as you can see. Yeah, I don't know, it's been stored somewhere not very nice for some time. Transformers aren't too bad, bit of rust. Choke, smoothing caps, so I expect they'll all be okay. Alright, well, let's flip this baby over and see what it's like underneath. Lovely simple amps, these. I mean, you might not like printed circuit boards, but this is as simple a PCB as it gets, and this won't perform any worse than a point-to-point wired. Hardly any components on here, all beautifully done. Let's just go along it and we can see the screen resistors are all nice and hefty, decent resistors there, and these are the grid stopper resistors, 1K5s, all look fine as well, all nicely wired in. Let's have a look at the caps, looking for any sign of bubbling or leaking coming out of them, any sign of bulging. I don't expect to find any. These are good quality caps. And this one down here, oh, I think that's all okay. Other electrolytic capacitors, these 25 microfarads, 25 volts usually. Oh, 16 microfarads, 10 microfarads at 100 volts. So those are the bias bias caps to do the negative bias voltage. They'll be okay. And well, that's it really. This is immaculate. There's nothing to change here. I'll service the pots, just give them a quick squirt, and then we'll pop in the new tubes, I think, fire this up and check the bias, and I think we're going to be good to go on this in quite short order. Here's the rear side. I don't like these. I don't like any kind of mains changeover switch there. Output set to 16 ohms, I assume that's what he wants. And the fuses, so yeah, all very nice. It's a Mark II Master model, 100 watt lead. Okay, I've got the new valves here. I'm going to use these Marshall EL34s. They're very good, these valves. They work extremely well in Marshall 100 watt amplifiers. They seem to take the higher plate voltage better than the JJs. I've had a lot of JJs arc over in Marshall 100 watts, which is not very impressive really. And then for the preamp valves, I'm going to use these Sovtex. I don't have any particular major preference for preamp valves. They're all, in my view, pretty much the same as each other. As I talked to you in November 2021, valves are getting extremely expensive and hard to get hold of. There's just a worldwide shortage. I think it's due to a Chinese factory burning down a couple of years ago, which they've never really rebuilt, and the remaining companies like JJ and New Sensor are struggling to keep up with the demand. So I'm getting quite short of valves, and I'm getting them in dribs and drabs from my usual supplier that I used to buy in the hundreds. He can now only spare me a handful. Yeah, this is a... I've never seen anything like that. Oh, there we go, sorry. Yes, this is a Svetlana 12AX7, this one on here. I was a bit confused by this number here, which is OTH96 on it. Anyway, that's a Svetlana. So we had a bit of a motley selection of preamp valves in this amp. And this one here, the one with the strange writing on, it just says ECC83, and it's got these, I don't know what that means. I think there might be the gains of the separate stages. A34, I think, B37, then a date 15th of the 4th 95. So because that was in the phase, was that in the phase inverter? No, that wasn't in the phase inverter position. No, okay, don't know. Anyway, that's going in the bin. It's definitely seen better days. Right, that's the preamp valves in. Now I'm going to put a couple of bias meters on here so that we can check the bias eventually. To remove a valve, just quite a strong pull upwards, and then as you can see a little kind of circular rocking motion to pull the valve out. There we go. Right, we'll pop a bias meter in. I'll just put the bias meters on the outside pair. That should tell us what's going on. Right, and now we can put these marshals in. I don't usually bother pushing them all the way in if it's just on the bias meter. So, oh well, that did go all the way in. It will be interesting to see what the bias is like on this, but it does have a bias adjustment pot, amazingly. Put those in there. I don't think I'll bother cleaning up this corrosion here. It would take absolutely forever, and there's no real reason to. It's not doing any damage. We'll call it an aged patina, shall we? Make it a feature and a benefit. Okay, so we're good to go there now. We can plug the amp in and turn it on. Okay, we're ready to turn on. I can remember where to turn it on. Oh yes, here. Okay, that's turned on. HT, so we've got 463 volts HT. I can hear the amp working. Oh, it's got a bit of a grumble. It's got a bit of a, you know, sort of noise. the pots. Okay, so I'll click that. I'll clean the pots. Listen to that. Whoa, whoa. Okay. And we've got 443 volts at 32 milliamps, which is actually not far off. So let me just check with my bias calculator. I use the Weber bias calculator from tedweber.com, and you just enter in the tube type EL34, and we've got 445 roughly. Calculate bias, and it says 39 milliamps. So we've got 33 at the moment, which is fine really. Could tweak it up to 39, but that's 30. You won't be able to see this LED one very well. Hopeless, this meter, don't like it at all. I don't think you can see that at all on the camera. That says 35, so we're not far off the bias. I'm tempted to leave well enough alone there. Bias it just very slightly cool. Okay, now that's good. There's a bit of hum, so I'm just going to see. I don't think, no, that's okay. I wonder why that's got quite so much hum as it does. Right, we're going to give these noisy pots a squirt of deoxit. Cool. Immediately cures it, look. Okay, good. That seems to be a lot better. A lot of that hum went away when I turned it upside down, so it's probably just pick up from something. There's a big difference between the low and high sensitivity sockets there. That's low sensitivity, that's high sensitivity. Quite a huge difference there. The bias I'm happy with. It's settled down to 41 on this one, interesting enough, and 37 on this one. So I think I'm just going to give that bias pot a turn, because I bet it's been sitting there forever. Yeah, that works well. Just knock that back down to 35 and 39. They're not identical, but that's often the case. Okay, so I think we are pretty much good to go on this. Nothing much more we can do. Yeah, I think that's good. I'm going to put the covers back on the valves and take the bias meters off, pop it back in its box, and job done really. Quite a simple little job, and a chance to look inside an amplifier like this. This sort of amplifier, either point to point or simple PCB, these Marshall JMPs. My absolute go-to amplifier. They are hugely reliable because they have so few components, and they're good, basic, solid amplifier. My view is that if you want all kinds of effects and things, just put pedals on. But I'm no guitarist, so Probably talking rubbish, but anyway, I like a basic amplifier which does the amplification, and then all gubbins you can have outside. These days, a Marshall, you've got dozens, quite literally dozens of interboard connectors, each with 5 or 10 or 3 connectors on each. Just so much to go wrong. Like a triple super lead or something like that. Anyway, there you go. Let's get this back in its box. There you go. Quick and simple video today. Fairly bread and butter job really. Revalve, rebias and Checkover. So this little beauty is good to go for another 10 years minimum. Lovely amp, I like this kind of amp, and hope the customer will be fairly happy with it and will start playing it again after 15 years. Okay, that's it from me. I'll catch you on the next video. Thanks as always for watching.